They don't need to see figures. With just this alone, I can actually sell whatever I want to sell to them. Welcome, Ian.
Thank you so much, Opeyemi.
You're welcome. So the floor is yours.
All right. Opeyemi, how far now? I've been trying to learn some Nigerian.
So I'm sorry about that. I'm very well actually.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Opeyemi, for hosting me and for having me around. And thank you so much. I can see that we have around 25 people in attendance. That is quite an amazing entry. And I can see that we have a hand raised up. Kehinde Amos has a question to ask. I believe that's for you, Opeyemi.
Okay, you can drop it in the chat. I'll respond to it.
Perfect. So Kehinde Amos, please do go ahead and drop that question in the chat section. We shall be hearing from you very soon. Opeyemi, do I then take it over from here?
Yes, please. Go ahead, please.
Perfect. Now, before I share my PowerPoint slides, allow me to ask a question. Who here knows how Walmart got their beer and diaper story? Who here can tell us about the Walmart beer and diaper story? Anyone has a clue about it? It's all about data. All right. So these happened back in the 1990s. Walmart is a retail supermarket in the United States, and they happen to be one of the biggest retailers in the US. What actually happened was the data analysts. Now you have to understand one thing, that data analysis may be a new thing in the African continent, but in the US and in the European continent, that used to be a thing back in the 1990s, way before internet and Wi-Fi and all these things, Starlink and the Teslas came to Africa. We're talking about the 2010s, the 2000s. That's when we had the cyber cafes in Africa. You're talking about Kenya. We had our first cyber cafes in the 2000s. I don't know when that used to happen in Nigeria, when we had the issue about the Yahoo boys. Maybe Opeyemi can tell us about that. But in the 1990s, Walmart, they had their data analysts, guys who are so much dedicated to the craft and the trade of analyzing the trends of customers. What are they buying? When are they buying it? And how much are they spending? They noticed one particular trend. On Friday evenings, the sale of beer and diapers used to skyrocket. Now, they were asking themselves, how is diapers and beer correlated? Is it the mothers who've just given birth? Are they the ones consuming the beer? Or is it the new dads who are consuming the beer? And how can they leverage that data to make more sales? How can they make the customer journey map? How the people who are purchasing these two products, how can they shorten the gap in which they get to purchase this product? And ladies and gentlemen, if you find yourself if we call it to Japa means to elope, to go all the way to the US. So if you find yourself in the US and you walk into any Walmart outlet, you're going to find one very particular thing. Diapers and beers are placed in the same aisles based on data that data analysts in the 1990s recommended to the supermarket owners. Now, if you are asking yourself as a data analyst, how does these information concern you? We shall be looking deep into that, how you as a data analyst need to leverage your skills and leverage your storytelling skills to become the best in the field. Opeyemi, I'm about to start sharing my screen now.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Perfect.
So please, if you have any question, please drop in the comment section so that we can take it one after the other.
Before I even dive in deep, allow me to say that on the poster, Opeyemi, I look older than you, but in real life, you look older than I am. All right. So we shall be looking into these four things: the mindset, the skills, the tools, and the career growth of a data analyst. What do you need to have? Now, that is what we shall be looking into in the next few minutes. So the first question a lot of people ask is who or what does it mean to be a data expert? Who is an expert in data? We first of all need to understand that a data analyst expert, a data analyst, a data scientist, or a data engineer, anyone who regards themselves as a data expert is someone who can be able to analyze data. First of all, we all understand what data is. It's anything that looks like a statistic, anything that looks like information, any credible thing that you can take and turn that to make a knowledgeable decision. Now, who can we claim to be an expert in all of these? Now, you need to understand that data analysis relies so heavily on your ability to be able to understand a problem and give a solution to that. Ideally, this is what the MBA world does. They come, they see a particular problem in a business, and they help solve that problem. Now you are going to go into businesses and you are going to be giving them solutions based on what they have been having, what they have collected over time as data. You're going to be taking that information and you are going to be analyzing problems. It's a problem specific. Let's say, let me give you a case scenario. We're talking about Opeyemi and Sons Limited. So they have their profit and loss statements for the past 3 years. And they want to understand where they have been losing their money from. Understand that you as a data analyst have been called to solve one very specific thing. They want to understand where they have been losing their money. So what is the key thing that any data analyst needs to have? They need to be able to be analytical thinkers. You need to be able to see a problem and see a solution out of it using data that you already have. Now, the next thing that we also need to understand is that data analysis majorly revolves around you being able to understand a business's pain points. That's the whole thing that you're going to be dealing with. Pain points. There's a new restaurant in town. They want to understand how they can get to target new customers, say in a certain region. So how can you be able to do that? Do they have already existing data? Do you have a competitor's data? Can you take that and can you use these data to make them understand how they're going to grow their business? Pain points, they want to grow their business. That's the main pain point. Now, the next thing that I'm going to ask is, have you ever asked yourself a question? How has Netflix made it? We know about Showmax, we know about Maisha Magic East, but what has defined the journey for Netflix? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, Netflix is a business built around data analytics. Let me give you a funny story. A certain trend was witnessed using data in Netflix that couples used to fight, especially now when it came to selecting movies. Let's say the lady wants to see romantic movies and the guy wants to see action movies. So where does Netflix come in and how did they sell these as an idea? Was that they could take trends of people who love watching romantic movies and people who love watching action movies, and they could figure out an action movie that has romance in it, and they could just bring it out as a suggestion, as a way. You can call these a carte blanche. It's something that just acts as a middle between. It's a wiggle. It's a compromise between them that love watching romantic movies, say, and them that love watching action movies. So they have these whole concept. It's I recommend a system where they have figured out how to compromise these now for ladies and for the guys, especially now. This actually works now when you're talking about Opeyemi. I don't know whether you have a better half. And whether that is an issue when it comes to when you now want to watch football, say, and when your woman wants to watch a soap opera. So Netflix has that figured out for you. And ideally, ladies and gentlemen, this is where now you come in, because you are going to be the next people working in Netflix and figuring out solutions for the world. Now, the next thing that we all need to understand is that a data analyst, the major thing that they do is that they deal with data. Let me give you a case scenario. So you have been invited, say, to a restaurant that serves jollof rice and egusi soup. I hope that is a dish in Nigeria. I hope I didn't get it wrong.
Yeah, right.
Perfect. Now, they want, so this is a new outlet. They have venture funding. So that means that they have been funded to the tune of $3 billion. So they have a lot of money in their portfolio, but they want to understand how they're going to grow their business. They want to understand, do they do e-commerce? Do they do door-to-door sales? What are they going to do? Now, understand that when you come on board as a data analyst, the first thing that you're going to, first of all, do is that you need to understand the pain point, which we have already covered. The pain point is that they want to understand how their growth pattern is going to be. They want to grow. That is why now they have you on board. So the second thing that you're going to do as a data analyst is that you're going to collect data. Much of your work is going to revolve around data collection. Now, this is where we have the distinction between a data engineer, a data analyst, and a data scientist. Much of what a data analyst does is that they gather data. You have to be in the process of gathering data. Now, this goes hand in hand for the other two of them, that is the data scientist and the data engineer. But when you go to companies, let's say Google or Netflix, or companies that are very skilled up, you're going to find that the person who's going to be doing much of the data collection is going to be the data engineer. But in most startups or in most companies that you may find yourself in, you're going to be involved in all the processes. So the first thing is that you need to understand that we have three classes of data. We have the first party, the second party, and the third party data. The first party data is when the company itself, let's say this startup is Opeyemi and Sons Limited. So Opeyemi gives you data based on what they have sold, based on the investor funding they already have, the financials, the statements, everything, the payables, the receivables. They give you all this data. Now that's what we call the first party data. The second kind of data is when now, let's say we have who? We have Amos and Sons. Now these are direct competitor. They have been in the business for the past 3 years, and they have been able to gather all their data. And most likely they have posted their data on their websites. They have all these data that you can readily access. Now this is what we call second party data. It's data ideally that you get now from direct competitors, ideally from that line of business or from sister companies. That's what we call now second party data. Now let's say in Kenya we have what we call county governments. And I believe that is what in Nigeria we call states. We have Imo State, and we have Abuja, and we have all these localities. Now, when that locality comes and posts data, let's say the number of households in Abuja, or let's say the number of employed Gen Zs in Abuja. Now, that kind of data is what we call the third party data. This is data that ideally has been gathered by a party, most likely governments, Bureau of Statistics, anyone that is not involved in the direct line of business that you're in. Usually we call that third party data. Now, when you move now from data collection, you need to understand that for you now, you're going to have to understand how to work with what we call data management platforms. The data management platform that I largely use is called Udo. It's a platform that I've used for the past 5 years. So it's in two phases. They have their enterprise version and they have their open source version. So you can look for one that ideally works for you. So it's a platform that is going to help you to capture all this data. So ideally what I do in Udo, I get to capture sales data, purchases data. I get to capture the CRM statistics. So we want to know, are we targeting? Do we have any prospects in the business? In the case now where we have the e-commerce, do we have new sales coming in? Do we have sales going out? So it's much like a data management platform. In most startups or in most companies that you're going to find yourselves in government parastatals, they're going to be working with a lot of data management platforms that you ideally are going to have to learn how to work with. So from there, this is something that a lot of people don't actually get, that 70% of your work as a data analyst will go into cleaning data. Now, picture this. So the company that has hired you, this is Opeyemi and Sons, they have volumes and records of data in Excel or in Word documents. 70% of that data is going to be raw data that has not been refined. So what you're going to do, you need to remove duplicates from that data. We call them double entries in accounting. So you want to come and clean these data, make it usable. Ideally, I'm trying to see a scenario where it's on a Sunday evening and Opeyemi is entering data and he has a typo. Now, you as a data analyst, you ideally don't have to, you shouldn't even work with typos. So you have to come clean all the typos. 70% of your work will be to clean these data. So that is where now your Excel skills and your Google Sheet skills come in. Because much of this data that you're going to find is going to be either in Excel or in Google Sheets. That's ideally what you're going to be working with mostly. Now, from there, then identify any gaps that maybe exist in the data. Do we have any white spaces in the data such that now when you want to search for a record in that data, that's good now to give you an anomaly. Now, when you come out of that, then this is where now your work now starts as a data analyst. So we ideally have 4 classes of analysis. There is what we call descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, and prescriptive. Now, allow me to tone these down to you in a very beautiful way. Think of this as you having to visit a doctor. Now, when you go to a doctor, the first thing that happens is that you describe your symptoms to a doctor. So Opeyemi has given you all these data. So what's the first thing that you do is that you come clean that data. There's a problem that Opeyemi gave you. They wanted to supply jollof and egusi. So now you want to describe their existing data, what that tells them about their business. So that is what we call now descriptive. Now, that is ideally the first stage, the first level. The second level is when now you tone down to diagnosing the exact problem. Now, coming back to a case scenario where we have the doctor and the patient. Now, the patient has described what they feel. Now, the doctor then again does this. He diagnoses the problem. Now, for you as a data analyst are going now to dive deep. And now you're going to diagnose. Now, using whatever you just described, now you're telling them that, let's say, Abuja people don't like egusi soup. Now, you want to diagnose why they don't like it, and yet this is the main meal that you're selling. Now, this is where diagnosis comes in. Why? This is where you get to answer that. And then the predictive analysis. Predictive is now when you want to see the trends. Now you have looked at what Opeyemi and Sons have done for the past 3-4 years, and now you want to tell them, this is what I feel is going to be in the next 3 months. So did you promise investors that you're going to net in $1 million or 1 million naira in the next 1 month? I think that's wrong, Opeyemi. And this is why I feel this is wrong. Based on the money that you've made in the past 3 months and the money that you expect to make in the next 3 months, they do not correlate. It's all hodgepodge. It's a mixture of raw data that you just used to mix investors that won't work. Then the next thing now, when you come now from predicting what is going to happen in the future, the next thing that you want to do is that you want to prescribe. I'm telling you, this works like medicine. So you've come, described, diagnosed, you predicted what's going to happen, and then now you prescribe a solution. Because you don't just leave it at just understanding what this data is telling them. No, just come, prescribe. Now, when we move now from that, this is where now we come now to something else that we call data. Ideally, in analysis, we have 3 kinds of analysis. There is what we call the univariate and the bivariate analysis. Forget about the terms. Let me simplify it for you. In univariate, understand it in this particular fashion. let's say in the case where, let's say myself, height is a variable. Let's say when you want to describe me and you're going to use something as simple as height. So that is what we call a univariate, just means one variable. So the one variable when you want to describe me is going to be height. Then when we want to talk about bivariate analysis is when now you want to use two. Bi means two. Then variate means it's a variable. Then you have two. Let's say it's my height, my age. You want to say my career, my profession, just that whole charade that you want to call that. Now that's going now to be bivariate. Now when ideally now data is presented, when now you want to present data, you want to present it in such a way that it's either you want to use two variables and you want to find the distinction, the correlation between the two variables. What is the correlation between my height and my age, and how does that affect me as a person? What is the correlation between walk-in customers and, let's say, the chef, if that's at all, that's a famous chef, and Opeyemi and Sons as a business. The other thing that we also now in data track is what we call the time series. Now, how is the business faring over a certain period of time? How is it going to fare, let's say, in the future? How has it fared in the past? This is now where time now becomes the factor. And then regression. Opeyemi, you having gone through ALX and the data, either analysis or the science program, you may have heard about the term regression. Now, ideally, what happens here, this is where now we start predicting the future. Actually, these are the guys now, we call them prophets. They just come and they prophesy. Now, pay me now in your business based on what you've done for the past 3 years. Now we see you in the next 5 years doing these based on what we have seen. And so using that past data, now we project that you are going to be making 10 billion naira a month in the next, say, 5 years, or in the next 5 months or 6 months. Now, this is where regression comes in. It's all about models. Now, most of the people who usually use regression analysis are data scientists. So if you are a data analyst, most likely you won't have to use a lot of regression in this. Now from there, now this is where you get to share your results. How do you do it? In dashboards. Now, if you are using a data management platform, there are going to be those Kanban view reports and all those beautiful, beautiful things, the pivot diagrams, and all these things. This is where now you get to show them. This is where you are last year. This is where you're going to be next year. This is where now your skills in, ideally, I don't know whether we all understand that Excel happens to have one of the best dashboards out there. Why? Because the community using Excel is so wide that you can actually now go online and just download a template, come load it, put your data, and voila, you have all the data. The other platform that I prefer using the most is Power BI. I haven't used Tableau so much, but I use Power BI and Excel. And in Excel, I use Google Sheets. I would actually advise all of us here to use Google Sheets and not to use Microsoft Excel, the computer version of it. Why Google Sheets? It's because now this is a global version. So it's just one Google Sheets. So you don't have the version before 2010, you don't have another version, I don't know, the 2016 version, the 2024 version. No, Google Sheets is just one updated version. So that means that you're keeping up to date with industry trends. And of course, now Opeyemi has given us a rough idea about all this. The skills that you need to have as a data expert, Python. And actually, I'd recommend ideally just get Python and SQL. In Python, you're going to find libraries. We call them libraries. We have what we call Seaborn, Matplotlib, or they just forget about the terms. They just used to just visualize data. So you have data, you want to map it out in a particular beautiful way. Now, how do you do it? Now, using Python, this is where you come in. So your data is stored in SQL. Now, SQL, to just give you just a simplified version, SQL is just, it's almost like a bag that has, let's say, groceries in it. So you have all these spices, you have everything. So SQL just It's a container that holds information in it. So now what you do with Python, now Python is just something that helps you now get into SQL, get data out of SQL, and then just display data. Let's say you now using Python, you've gone inside of SQL, inside of that grocery bag, you've gotten out your groceries, and you've just displayed it there using, let's say, Tableau or maybe Power BI. Another thing that we really and honestly do need to do is that we really need to be good in data storytelling, because this is where your work shows. Now you've done 90% of the work, but how do you present? How do you even explain a trend in data? So we moved these from here all the way to here. So how is the correlation between these particular data point and these particular data point? You need to be a very good data storyteller. And from there, we've touched on all of these networking. The first time I met Opeyemi was, I think, 2 weeks ago during a roundtable talk series. And now we are here through LinkedIn and the platform Zoom. So he saw me somewhere, he approached me on LinkedIn, and here I am. So networking is also going to be one beautiful way in how you're going to build yourself and how you're going to showcase yourself as a data analyst expert. Now from there, Opeyemi, I have no further information, only questions, because I can see that I have done much of the talking and we need to be winding up.
All right, thank you very much, Ian, for that wonderful session. It was mind blowing. In fact, in my mind, I was like, it's like this guy's already doing the data analytics training or data science training already, because those times, you were already going above the ordinary. Let me just put it that way. Thank you very much, Ian. That was very, very explosive and straight to the point. So I can see that now we have some questions in the chat box. So very shortly, we're going to be addressing some of those questions. But let me ask, Ian, you talked about egusi soup and have you been to Nigeria? But how did you get to next?
Usually, I actually love cooking. Now, what I do is that I go on YouTube and I try African dishes, and I try now to replicate that now in my own kitchen. So egusi has been on my list for so long.
Wow. Wow. Well, that's a good one. That's a good one. Guys, we just have, sometimes when you're talking about data analysis, data science, there are times that you just have to just brush this whole data thing aside, talk about something else. And that's why I love where it started from. You just bring, natural things that you see around so that you don't get bored and you don't get overwhelmed by those things. So quickly, we are going to be addressing some of the questions that we have in the chat box. And Ian, you'll be helping us with some of those questions. The first question, somebody was asking, he said, what's the difference between data analysis and data analytics? I think I will take this. Data analysis and data analytics, what's the difference? The difference is very simple. Data analytics is more like a broad term that involves several stages. It involves bringing several things together, from collecting data to, understanding the pain points like Ian mentioned, and also deciding what kind of tool and what kind of method of analysis you want to use, whether you want to do, regression analysis, any kind of analysis you want to do. Data analysis is talking about different stages put together in one. That's data analytics. Whereas data analysis is specific. You are analyzing, the correlation between two variables. That's data analysis. You are specific and you know what you want to do. So we talk about it. So when we talk about analytics, it is broad and it brings in so many things together. Whereas the analysis is just about being specific and talking about what you want to do at that time. Then somebody asked a question. He said, this goes to Ian. He said, for a new beginner, where do we start from? That's the question. Using the tool you mentioned. So for a beginner, because if you are not in the system, you can see one thing we should understand is that for somebody that is a data enthusiast, we can go on and on the whole day. We talk about, data. We can be here for long. You can see the way he was talking about it and the way we were talking about it in the first place. So we can go on and talk about these things so long you have that interest and you're an enthusiast. So it's broad. And one good part is that you don't have a wrong answer or the right answer. You only have that kind of answer that is best for that situation that you want. So the way you reason, the way you handle your data and you understand it will determine what you get and what you make of that data. So it's quite interesting. So the question is, where do we start from? You mentioned quite a lot of regression analysis. We talked about time series analysis. We talked about understanding the pain points and all of those things. So where do we start from as a beginner?
Thank you so much, Opeyemi, and thank you so much, Kehinde Amos, for that wonderful question. I believe Kehinde Amos is a Kenyan. I'm just looking out for my Kenyan brothers out here and sisters. Where we begin from is, first of all, understanding a pain point, a business's pain point. So how do we do that? So first of all, do we understand the different departments involved in businesses? Do we understand different business processes? Ideally, I would urge each and every one of us to first of all start from there. Understand how businesses run. You want to become a data analyst to serve business people, and this is high executive management teams. So you're talking about CEOs, CTOs, CFOs. You want to inform them. So the first thing, understand how businesses run. Understand what the accountants do. So you've been given accounting data. So then you come across awards such as receivables and payables. What is receivables? What is payables, Werner? What is all these? What are you talking to us about? Then the next thing is that just simplify your work. Google Sheets. Just understand how to operate Google Sheets. Forget about Python for now. Just understand how you can take, let's say, a profit and loss statement from a business, display it in Google Sheets, and then just have the trends, then have the geographics, just have all these data. Can you be able to tabulate your data in Google Sheets? That's very simple. Now, first of all, you understand how a business runs, then you have Google Sheets, and now you can take data, you can tabulate it. Then from there, you can now scale now to tools such as Python, such as W, and all these other platforms. But that is the best place now to start from.
Okay, thank you very much, and I think that that's explicit enough. I mentioned something at the beginning too. I said, Python is a good tool, and in fact, it's one of the most widely mentioned tool that we talk about when we talk about data analysis and data science. But then, as a beginner, if you start looking at some of those things, it will be difficult for you to start at all. Google Sheets, Excel, those are very, very rich tools. Google Workspace generally. So if you must start, that is the starting point for everyone of us. And the good part is that this is a community, and we are, finding a way of scaling up from scratch, from the beginning down to the expert level. So if that is your aim, you want to start at all, I think you are in the right place. So we have a roadmap already on how you can get started and how you can grow alongside. And one good part is that if you want to be a data expert, you need to be able to get data, real life data, to do certain things. And if care is not taken, getting real life data can be very, very difficult sometimes. Though we have them, if you know how to find them. And that's one of those things that we tend to get from this community. And secondly, to Ian, somebody is asking, I think it's still on 10-day Amos. So can someone learn this practical without a personal laptop? Can someone learn this practical without a personal laptop? So you just be frank.
No, Opeyemi, here's the thing. You need to understand the question. The question is personal laptop. So if they can get another laptop, they can. You can learn. If you can get a device that you can ideally tabulate data with, ideally maybe an iPad, if you can get someone else's desktop or laptop, then you can learn. But ideally, you need to have a machine to work with.
That's just it. There's no two way about it. We are not beating around the bush. If you don't have access to a PC, you will find it difficult on this journey. That's just the truth. Because these two that we're talking about, yes, we have the mobile version, but there are limits to what you can do on Google Workspace on your phone. So if you don't have a device, then it becomes difficult for you to leverage on this opportunity that is coming your way. Now, before we round up, we are at the last. This is a Q&A session. Before we round up, it is a community. There's something I want us to do. Ian said something, and I also mentioned the same thing. You can't rule out the fact that you need people to be able to get along on this journey. We met in a session like this, and the rest is story. The rest is history. You cannot rule out the fact that we need network of people. And one way we can network is when you know somebody that knows somebody that has something that I want. From there, I can go to that channel and get the results that I want. So I want to do something. For every one of us that has a LinkedIn profile, Ian will also drop his own LinkedIn profile so that we can connect and follow him. This guy is a great guy to follow. That's just the truth. If you check his LinkedIn profile, you will know that this is somebody that has ambition and is going somewhere. And if you want to get somewhere, follow someone that knows where he's going, not somebody that beats around the bush. He's going to be dropping his own LinkedIn profile. I want everybody to follow him and connect with him on LinkedIn. At the same time, each and every one of us will drop our LinkedIn profile. Let's connect with one another so that we can follow what others are doing. On my profile, if you have seen a dashboard that I've designed and I just drop it there, it can be a source of motivation to you. So I want to, if you have a LinkedIn profile, just copy your LinkedIn profile address, drop it in the chat box, and we all will be there to follow you. And don't forget, follow Ian. Ensure you follow him. This guy is somebody that you need to connect with. And when you connect with him, you also tend to see some of his networks. And from there, you can also scale up from there. Finally, as we conclude, and I want Ian to bring his parting word after now. But as we conclude, let me bring to our notice that this is a community of people across the globe. We are not mindful of the race. We are not mindful of the ethnic group. That is not our concern, because data is everywhere. Data is everywhere. So the way you visualize data, the way you see data will not determine what you get from such data. There are people out there, they have data. Let me share this with us. There was a time recently, one of my superiors wanted to run a report. It is sales data. And what he needed was, he needed to see the number of deliveries each driver has made over a period of 2 months. A very large data. That's what he wanted to see. Number of deliveries each driver has made over a period of 2 months. Now imagine you have a data that is almost like 3,000 data sets. You can't begin to do that one after the other. So when he started with the data and was beginning to filter one after the other, this driver has completed so and so number of deliveries. Then he looked at it and said, if I should go this route, in the next 1 week, I won't finish this analysis. And that was when a data, analyst now came in. He said it to me, and within a few minutes, what did I use? Excel. So that's why we are saying that start with your sheets, Google Sheets, Excel workbook, Google Workspace. That is a great place to start from. And that's where we're going to be starting from. We're having a 5-week session that will be coming up from end of this month, 28th of September. That is actually where we're starting from. As much as you have, you need background, you need a data background of those things. We bring it from the very beginning, then we scale up from there. So it's a great place to start. And I want to tell you that just with that alone, you can grow up from that. I'm beginning to see those LinkedIn profiles, so keep them coming. I will follow you. I will drop mine too, so you can follow me as well. Ian will drop his own LinkedIn profile, so you can follow Ian as well. And finally, from my end, Ian mentioned something while he was talking. He was talking about data cleaning. I mentioned data wrangling, which is practically the same thing. As a data analyst, your job is to ensure that you get results no matter how. Somebody can give you a data, they don't know what you want to do. They will just give you data in a particular form that will not be suited for what you want to do. Somebody gave me one recently, just last week. I was trying to import it to Power BI for analysis. It was just, giving me error. And why was that? The data structure was wrong. So most of the things that you're going to be doing, or the basic thing that you'll be doing as a data analyst, data scientist, data engineer, would be to ensure that your data meets the criteria and the kind of form that you also you need to be able to clean the data. So from there, Excel, you can clean data in Excel. Everywhere you clean data everywhere. So that's why this thing that we are talking about is something that everybody should take seriously. And on the final note, this is my word to you. I started with this and I also end with this. In this community, then Ian will give us his parting word to them. We can end this meeting. We have the recording of this meeting. I'll make it available to everyone. If you are not on the WhatsApp group, you can also drop your email. So I will ensure it gets to everybody. We have the recording of this session. Those things that Ian shared, they are details. I'm telling you, you should definitely. You have. I think you also share the PowerPoint too. Go ahead and make some findings. 90% of what you'll be doing on this journey will be self-paced. Even if somebody comes and just scratch the surface and give you something, 90% of your growth will be dependent on what exactly you do on your own. I can see some people are sharing email. Your LinkedIn profile is not your Gmail. Go to your LinkedIn profile and drop your LinkedIn profile. We'll follow you, and by the time we follow you on LinkedIn, we can also access your LinkedIn profile. There are some LinkedIn profiles that they are not professional enough, and people can they can just stumble on you on LinkedIn. When they look at the way you structure it, it can turn them off eventually. Now over to you, Ian. Let's have your parting word as we end this meeting.
That's so fantastic, Opeyemi. So your Gmail is not your professional portfolio, you said?
Yes.
Okay. I'm actually, just give me a minute. I'm sharing the PowerPoint resource. Just a minute. Let me type this here. I've come to find out one thing is that usually now when we are power talking as much, so a lot of information and content goes unsaid. Now, I have done a lot of research for me to just grace your presence for the past 30 minutes. And so, which is why I've compiled all that information in that PowerPoint slide. So just go ahead. It's on Google Slides. Just look at it. If at all you have any questions, you can raise a query to Opeyemi, or you can just shoot it directly to my LinkedIn. I have attached my LinkedIn URL towards the very end of that PowerPoint slide. Now, what you do is that just at your own leisure, just look at it. If at all you have any questions, you can raise the same to Opeyemi or myself, and I'll be quick to reply based on the traffic that I'm going to be receiving this coming week. My parting shot. There's this wonderful Formula One driver by the name of Mario Andretti. He once said that if at all you are in control, then you are not going fast enough. So ladies and gentlemen, please, if at all you feel in control of your data analysis journey, everything has been figured out. If you feel that you are already an expert, then just know that you're not moving fast enough. You need to do things harder than you're doing them at the moment. Over and back to you, Opeyemi.
All right, thank you very much. And on a final note, I'm sorry about that. I recall that I did mention you dropping your Gmail so that I can drop the recording. So I guess those email accounts were coming because of that particular statement. However, if you have not dropped your LinkedIn profile, do well to drop the LinkedIn profile. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining this evening. My special thanks goes to Ian Githu. It's actually a privilege knowing you. I'm very, very delighted to meet you, and I believe that we are still going to do so many things together. I want to believe that. So thank you very much. This is just the beginning. We have a whole lot of things to do in common. Also, in that chat box, you also see the link to the WhatsApp group. If you have not joined, do well to join the WhatsApp group. And from there, we'll take it up from there. Thank you very much, everybody. Now we'll be exiting this group with a musical break. Thank you very much. And enjoy the rest of it. All right, thank you. just for making proper before you go. Also do what to also download PowerPoint and share. Like